Greetings to all of you. I want to talk today about this powerful shift we will be experiencing on July 7th as Uranus moves into Gemini. Remember that we've been witnessing all three of the outermost transpersonal planets shifting signs. Pluto moved fully into Aquarius November of 2024. We saw Neptune make its first movement into the sign of Aries at the end of March of this year, and now Uranus moves into Gemini. Now, Neptune and Uranus will be moving back into Neptune and Pisces in October, Uranus back into Taurus in November, but all three will be fully in those new signs by April of 2026. So we're in this transition time with these powerful transpersonal planets shifting from being in earth and water signs to now moving into being in air and fire signs. It's a part of the accelerating change that we're in as we're in this powerful transition time that is taking us astrologically through rapid shifts in 2025. All of this I see increasing in intensity and in the accelerated rate of change coming as we ended the Kali Yuga March 20th of 2025. So these planetary energies are guiding us rapidly into higher consciousness, showing us how to be in this transition time. But we are also seeing the concurrent turbulence in the world as we're in this profound shift. But let's talk in particular about the meaning of Uranus's movement into Gemini, what that means for us, and what it means in relationship with these other two outermost planets. Let me show you the chart. Here's the chart on July 7th when Uranus first moves into Gemini at 0 degrees of Gemini, 0 minutes. Remember that Uranus is that planet that guides us in radical shifts. It is the planet that cuts through illusion to set us free from patterns or ways of thinking that aren't true to who we are and that aren't in alignment with truth. Remember that Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So if you think of Mercury as our ways of thinking and communicating and processing things through our own minds, Uranus is guiding us to connect to divine mind. In other words, how are we letting go of that identification with our own thoughts and our own lens through which we perceive reality to attune to the truth that is in the energies of cosmic consciousness, the truth of natural law, the truth of what it means to be in right balance, right harmony with all that is. In our current cultural context, we're surrounded by different versions of truth. We're surrounded by misinformation, disinformation, people advocating different beliefs, different thought systems, all saying this is true, this is what's right. And we're seeing this polarization happening on the planet between different beliefs, different perspectives, different ways of thinking. And Uranus in Gemini is cutting through all of that and saying there is a way to be in alignment with truth, with a capital T, which is when we step out of our own personalities, identification with ego consciousness, identified with our own thoughts and projections and ways of looking at things to come back into connection with cosmic consciousness, to realize there is a spiritual reality beyond our human experience that's guiding us in listening and attuning to those energies of the cosmos, the wisdom of the cosmos, of natural law, of how we can come back into balance. So I think as Uranus moves into Gemini, we're going to see a lot of increasing disclosure in terms of things that have been suppressed coming more into conscious awareness. But we're also going to feel this increasing realization of illusions that we've been caught in, or the ways in which the power over paradigms have been trying to control our ways of thinking and seeing things. We're being called not to look for truth outside of ourselves, but to listen to that connection with cosmic consciousness that is within us, to open to that, to attune to that, to know that we are being guided to radically change our ways of thinking and perceiving things. As Uranus moves into Gemini, it will now be moving into a close trine with Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. And they're going to continue to be in this trine. And this is a powerful aspect in that Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, the sign that Pluto is in. And their synoded cycle is 127 years. They started this cycle together with Pluto conjunct Uranus in the mid-60s. 1965, 1966, they were conjunct in Virgo. Virgo, that sign that calls us into healing, calls us into radical transformation in how we're living our daily lives, calls us into changing our relationship with the earth and the resources of the earth. The mid-60s was a powerful time of innovation, transformation, looking at new ways of being and engaging in our systems and our understanding of ourselves, and a radical movement towards more environmental and ecological understanding. They then went into squaring each other 2012 through 2015 with Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Aries. Pluto in Capricorn deconstructing the systems and structures that needed to be changed in order for us, Uranus in Aries, to move into new forms. That first square is a crisis in action. How are we working this profound transformation that Pluto and Uranus are calling us into? Now, as they're in their trine together, it's how do we refine that? How do we look more carefully at how we're moving through this time of transition and transformation? And in particular, how are we changing our thoughts, our ways of perceiving things, our beliefs to be more in alignment with Aquarian paradigms? We will have a powerful combination now across the coming years of this trine between Pluto and Aquarius, with the midpoint of that trine being both of those planets sextiling Neptune, and as it's conjunct Saturn, also Saturn in Aries. Remember that this combination is about how are we moving into new forms that are integrating our spirituality and bringing that into form in the world. I also, as I've talked about in earlier videos, see it as how are we dissolving our identification with the paradigms coming from the age of Aries to release that, to be more in the paradigms of the Aquarian age. How are we redefining our sense of self? So Pluto sextiling Neptune, that first phase in their cycle together, their synoded cycle, is 494 years, and they were conjunct in 1891 to 1892 at 8 degrees of Gemini, launching new forms of spirituality, new understandings of psychology, again, radical shifts in our global perspective. And now Pluto in Aquarius calling us into the Aquarian paradigms is supporting this activation of dissolving the patterns of the past, and particularly the patterns associated with the out of balanced energies of Mars and the age of Aries to move into new forms. So these three, and now Uranus is sextiling this. So we're being called into cutting through illusions and beliefs that are out of balance, releasing out of balance patterns from the past to be in this transformational process more fully into these Aquarian paradigms of truth, harmony, balance, justice, collaboration, co-creating a new world together in community. I think part of the meaning of Uranus is moving into Gemini and calling us into really clarifying how we're thinking about things and disidentifying from our mind to be more in that connection with divine mind, with cosmic consciousness, is supporting us in navigating this shift we're in, as Barbara Hand Clow talks about in her work and in her book, Alchemies of the Nine Dimensions. We're currently moving out of the third dimensional reality of materialism and being locked into the sense that we're caught in linear time and space. We're now navigating the fourth dimension, which is the realm of thought and feelings. We are seeing so much turbulence in the world around reactivity, polarization, how we're thinking about things, different belief systems, and we're being supported to cut through that into connection with divine mind, into truth, to support us in this transition into fifth dimensional reality, which is coming from our hearts and opening to unity consciousness. But we can't get there without clearing the blocks that we get caught in, or the distortions that we get caught in our thoughts and in our emotions in this fourth dimensional reality. But in a profound way, Uranus cutting through illusion, calling us to break out of patterns that are out of balance, to be in our authentic selves, to align with our soul selves, to be aligned with cosmic consciousness, is supporting us in navigating that shift and the bridge between our movement out of that third dimensional reality into fifth dimensional reality. And let's look at more aspects in the chart. It's significant in terms of that it's opposite at the time that it's moving into Gemini. Uranus is opposite the moon. So it is helping us clear what we need to clear emotionally related to our beliefs. Again, to be in that connection with divine mind, with cosmic consciousness. It's also significant that Uranus is conjunct Sedna and conjunct Venus. And in a minute, I'll show you that it's also conjunct the asteroid Psyche at this time that it's making that movement into Gemini. We've been tracking its ongoing conjunction with Sedna, but now it's significant that it's in this close conjunction with both Venus and the asteroid Psyche, which is showing us that Uranus is not only supporting us in changing our thoughts and beliefs, but also how we are in relationship with each other and how we are honoring that wisdom coming to us from Sedna, who is the messenger about these times of major shift in the precessional cycle. So Uranus is saying, see the truth of this larger shift that we're in, that this is a time for radical change in how we think and perceive things and in how we are in relationship. And here you can see the asteroid Psyche now moving into an out of sign conjunction with Uranus at the time of this powerful shift. And Psyche is that asteroid that guides us in our own soul's evolutionary process. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's interesting that we also have, at the time of this shift of Uranus into Gemini, an ongoing grand square that was activated at the time of the new moon on June 25th that included the new moon and sun at that time. But now that grand square is Neptune and Saturn squaring Jupiter, squaring Maki Maki, and squaring that powerful combination of Quaoar, Pholus, and Ixion. To me, the meaning of that is the way in which we can move into these new forms and new ways of understanding spirituality and integrating that in how we live our lives, how we understand the world. Saturn is being guided by Jupiter's movement into Cancer, supporting us in coming back in to connection with compassion for ourselves, for each other, compassion in our beliefs. And that is coming out of healing the ancestral patterns of being out of balance in how we get caught in those ways of being that Ixion represents, that are identification with ego consciousness, our own greed, our own impulses. We're meant to clear that generational pattern, Pholus, to Quaoar, come into balance and harmony, and then Maki Maki, guiding us in how we can recreate ourselves and our relationship with the planet to be moving into a new world that is in balance and harmony. I think it's highly significant that this asteroid Psyche is conjunct Uranus at the time of this profound shift of Uranus into Gemini. The story of Psyche comes out of the Roman mythology about Psyche and Cupid, or coming from Greek mythology, Eros, the god of love. Without going through all the details of this story, it's about this way in which Psyche, a mortal woman, falls in love with Cupid, this divine god of love, and he falls in love with her. And initially, they're in this love relationship where he has to keep himself invisible, but he comes to her at night and visits her and is with her, and they experience this bliss together in their relationship. But at a certain point, she betrays him by bringing an oil lamp and gazing at him in the night, realizing he's an immortal god and that she's now violated the way in which she could stay in relationship with him. He flees to go and deal with this burn that happens when the oil from the oil lamp falls on him. And they end up in this prolonged process where Psyche is cut off from him and then has to go through these tasks assigned to her by Aphrodite, who's trying to curse her and prevent her from reconnecting with Cupid. But Psyche is able to accomplish those tasks, those trials, but ends up making a mistake with the final trial, falling into a deep sleep, and finally is revived by Cupid when he, in his search for her, finds her again, kisses her, awakens her, and then pleads with the gods to allow her to become immortal so that they can be united in marriage in immortality together, which eventually happens. But without going through all the details of the story, it is a tale about love and the trials and difficulties that we sometimes experience in our devotion to our true love and in our efforts to work out the difficulties in the relationship to deepen in that intimacy and commitment together. But at a deeper level, it is about our own psyches and our own soul's journey of movement from separation and banishment, which happens to Psyche at the beginning of the story, where she's cut off, alone, cursed, told she's going to have to marry a monster or be alone for the rest of her life. She finds that connection with Cupid, that connection with the love of the God, that connection to divine love, and then goes through the initiation that she has to go through to fully unite in that marriage of psyche with soul, of humanity, our humanity with the divine love. We're in this journey right now, collectively, of being in our own soul's evolution to move from this paradigm of separation, the illusion of our disconnection from spirit, from the earth, from each other, to come back to our hearts, to come back into unity consciousness, to come back into that wisdom that the ancient cultures had about how we are always interconnected. We're always part of the oneness of the cosmos. It's the wisdom the indigenous peoples never lost. But we, in this last 5,000 years of the patriarchal power over paradigms, have gotten caught and mired in this sense of separation and disconnection. In a profound way, Uranus moving into Gemini is saying, let's cut through that illusion to remember that you never were separated from the divine. You never were disconnected from spirit, from cosmic consciousness. We can see the truth of that and come back in to right relationship with each other, with the earth, with the cosmos. And Psyche is guiding us to know that we can be in that journey individually and collectively to move through that healing and initiation process with our psyches to reunite our humanity with our soul selves, to reunite humanity with cosmic consciousness, to remember we've never been cut off or alone. And we can come back into that truth, into that love, into that relationship with the divine. So, in a profound way, Uranus is helping us see that truth, release the illusions of the past. And in its activation with Psyche, with Venus, with Sedna, to come back into right relationship with each other, with the earth, with the cosmos. And let's look now at where this is in the sky at the time of this shift. As Uranus moves into Gemini, it's continuing to be here in the stars of Taurus, very close to the Pleiades. And here is Venus just beneath it. Sedna is right here. And the asteroid Psyche is here in the chart at 25 degrees of Taurus. All of these are close to the Pleiades. And remember, the Pleiades, I believe, are those beings of advanced consciousness that are supporting us on the earth in this shift, helping us remember who we are, helping us come back to that connection with ancient wisdom, to move through this transition into higher consciousness. Psyche here at 25 degrees of Taurus in the chart is in very close alignment with the star Algol, which aligns with 26 Taurus on the ecliptic. So I also think this connection of Psyche, Venus, Uranus, its alignment with Algol, known as the demon star, but is actually symbolic, as I've talked about in earlier videos, of the suppression of the sacred feminine, the beheading of Medusa, who's associated with an ancient great goddess, the triple goddess, and the goddess of our understanding of death, rebirth. It's calling us into reclaiming the sacred feminine wisdom. It's calling us into changing our psyches to reconnect with divine consciousness, which means reweaving our awareness of the sacred feminine wisdom and moving beyond that beheading of the sacred feminine, that suppression of the sacred feminine that has been so much a part of the distortion and imbalance and destruction of this past 5,000 years of patriarchy and power over and the illusion of separation. And at this powerful time, when Uranus shifts into Gemini, the moon will be in the sky. And remember, in the chart, it's opposite Uranus. In the sky, it will be very close to this royal star Antares, meaning dare to dive deep into your own emotions, moon, to be in this alchemical time of transformation, of death, rebirth, to be held by the healing energies of Ophiuchus that is above the star Antares, guiding us through this healing process back into wholeness, back into rebalancing the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. So how do we navigate this time? Because I believe as Uranus moves into Gemini, we will see increasing disclosure. We will be guided to get these insights, flashes of clarity, knowing Uranus, synchronicities, guiding us to see where we are out of balance, guiding us to be more in alignment with our true selves, guiding us to let go of our over-identification with our minds or with false beliefs or perceptions through which we've perceived ourselves and the world. It is calling us into clarity about our own deep emotions, clarity about patterns in relationship. It's calling us into truth, true alignment with our soul selves and alignment with cosmic consciousness. But it's also likely, as it's leading to increasing disclosure of some of the false beliefs and the suppression of truth that's been going on in our collective consciousness, it's likely in the short run to increase a lot of turmoil in the collective. We're likely to see more turbulence, more polarization, more reactivity. But remember that that is a part of the transition. And it's important to not get mired in that or attached to that. Keep coming back to your heart. Keep aligning with your own inner truth. Part of what's critical in this time is to stay in your sovereignty of self, to not give your power away to anyone or anything. And one of the things I think we need to be careful of as Uranus moves into Gemini, the shadow aspect of that can be an increasing idealization of technology and artificial intelligence. Remember, Uranus in Gemini is trying to call us into our connection with divine mind, the capacity of our consciousness to open to the consciousness of the cosmos. This is what we're capable of if we disidentify from our minds, align with our hearts to open to unity consciousness. But if we use that Uranus moving into Gemini in an unconscious way, it can be the way in which we idealize our minds, the capacity of artificial intelligence, and perceive divine wisdom coming through artificial intelligence instead of our own capacity of our consciousness. Remember that artificial intelligence is a great servant to us in supporting us in managing some of the tasks in our day-to-day lives. But if we idealize it and give it that power over us, we then are more and more identified with our human minds, with the capacity of our human intellect, our left brain ways of knowing that get encoded in machine technology, in artificial intelligence, that mirror back our own human minds in a way that can be alluring and feel like it's giving us wisdom from outside of ourselves, but it's ultimately our own human minds being mirrored back to us. That the true connection with divine mind will only come through disidentifying with our minds and our human intellect to reconnect, as Psyche did, with our awareness of our unity with divine love, divine wisdom that comes through the heart to open our capacity for higher consciousness, to download the wisdom of the cosmos in that direct way through the capacity of our spiritual consciousness and ways of knowing. This is the promise that Uranus and Gemini is giving us, but we need to be aware of the ways in which the paradigms of the past can still pull us into those power over paradigms and idealization of technology and illusion of our separation in a way that can be increasingly harmful and toxic to us. So let's, as a community, keep aligning with our hearts. I encourage you to use that medicine wheel meditation that I put out a few months ago, and I'll put the link below. And one of the things that I find really helpful with that is when you come to the center of the medicine wheel, align down to the core of the earth, align up to the galactic center. Feel those energies channeling through your central channel, down to the Earth's core, up to the galactic center, aligning you with your soul self, connecting you to the wisdom at the core of the Earth, the wisdom of the source, our galactic center, to activate your high heart, to open your heart to divine wisdom, divine love, cosmic consciousness, to then activate your lower dantian around your second and third chakras to be in right action, activating your third eye, your pineal gland, that upper dantian to be in right knowing, to be coming from our hearts, aligning with right action, right knowing, to be living in that truth of higher consciousness, our connection as soul selves with divine consciousness, to be acting that, emanating that, living that, being that in an embodied way in the world in this time. Then together as a community, we are emanating that into the morphogenic field. We are helping activate that in the collective consciousness to help this transition be more gentle and less turbulent, to help us all more and more remember who we truly are and what we're capable of, to come back into that fifth dimensional knowing of coming from our hearts to open to unity consciousness, to live in alignment with divine love and divine wisdom. May we continue to support each other in that. And I am deeply grateful for this community and our heart connections with and for each other. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.